Here is what we're going to cover in this video, which is an insane amount of content here. So if you feel like reading it, by all means, pause the video, go on. Um, there's 3 parts here. This is number system 2 for 7th grade. Let's talk about what we're really doing here. Okay. We're going to multiply and divide with negatives. All right, we're going to do this a couple different times. We're going to use integers. We're going to use come back and revisit it. We'll use decimals, and then we'll come back and we'll do revisit it again with fractions. Okay, but right now we're just going to talk about the basics. So here's what I wanted you to start with. First of all, what is this idea of multiplication, right? What does multiplication mean? Well, it's really just sort of saying I've got groups of stuff, okay? And it's going to make some total amount of stuff. So when I'm multiplying, I'm looking for this total amount of stuff, and I'm just going to have groups of stuff. So that's what the circle represents, okay? The circle represents a group, and I'm looking at it, and I have stuff inside of it. So here I would have one group of 5, okay? So that would be 1 times 5. Okay, we can write this in. This would be 1 times 5. So there's 5, all right? Total, there's 5 total things, whatever these things are. In this case, they're stars, right? So I have one group of 5 stars. So that's 5 total stars. Okay? And that's really all that multiplication is saying, okay? Let's try another one. So let's say I have, let's make 3. So now I have 3 groups of 5 stars, right? Groups of stuff. Groups, number of groups, right? Of stuff, the stuff that's inside. And it's got to be an equal number of group, right? It doesn't work if this group has 5 in it and another group has 4 in it. Then it's not really multiplication. That would just have to be addition. But in this case, we have the same group repeated over and over again, right? I have a group of 5, I have another group of 5, and a third group of 5. So I have 3 groups of 5, right? Well, how much stuff is that? If I open up all these groups and put them all together in a big clump, I would get 15, right? So I have 3 groups of 5, which is equal to 15 total items, okay? And what I could also do is I could rewrite this. So I could say I have 5 things in a group. I have 3 groups, so together that's 15, right? I'm saying the same idea, right? This is why 5 times 3, 15, 3 times 5. It just sort of depends on how you say it. So this would say I have a group of 5 and I have that group 3 times, okay? That's how this one. Now, I couldn't say I have 5 groups of 3. That doesn't make sense for what I have up here, okay? You do get the same answer, but you have to understand if the way you're saying it actually makes sense for what it is we see. All right, so that's the basic, gist of multiplication. Groups of stuff equals the total amount of stuff. All right, so then what is division? Well, division is going to be the reverse of that, okay? It's basically the same problem, all right? You're going to have the same problem as multiplication. You're just talking about it from the opposite side. So instead of looking at something and saying I have groups of stuff and I want to know how much stuff it makes, here, I already have a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to put it into groups, right? That's what I'm going to do. So I can say I have this total amount of stuff, and I'm going to divide it into groups. And what is that going to tell me? Well, what does your answer mean, actually? The answer is going to tell you how much stuff goes into each group. Okay? Or I could say I want a total amount of stuff, and I'm going to put a certain amount of stuff in each group, and then it's going to tell me how many groups there are. Okay? So let's look at that first one, and we'll say total stuff, and we're going to make groups. Okay, so let's say I have this total amount of stuff, and let's count how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 things, and let's say we want to make it into 3 groups. Okay, well, this problem here, right, this would be total stuff 12, right? Number of groups divided by 3. Notice I'm not going to be writing it like this, okay? We're not those days are over. Fractions is how we're going to write it, okay? This is the more mathematical way of describing grouping, okay? We're not going to be dividing it this way anymore. Using fractions, okay? That's what the fraction is telling us, okay? We're breaking it into groups. So 12 divided by 3, right? 12 things divided into 3 groups, okay? And then what I'm finding is, in this case, I'm finding how much stuff is going to go into each group, right? Well, when you divide, you're sort of saying, okay, I'm going to put one of these things into each group. Whoops. Let's see, where did that? It's behind it. It needs to come in front. There we go. Put it in front. Let me just reorder send to back. There we go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just start putting these things, right? If I put them in one at a time. Sorry. We'll send it to the back. All right, there we go. Okay, and I'm putting them in one at a time. This is one way of doing division, right? And so then I see that when I'm done, I get equal amounts in each group. And what is my answer here? Well, my answer would be 4, okay? Because if I have 12 things and I divide it into 3 and I put them into 3 groups, I get 4 things in each group. Okay. Now, if I were looking at this, what I could say is 3 groups of 4, right? Notice 3 groups of 4 gives me 12 total things. Okay. That's why it's sort of the same. You're really sort of saying the same thing, just in reverse. Okay. And sometimes what you'll see is people will do these things called magic triangles, right? Where they'll look at them and they'll say 3, 4, and these two together make 12. So 3 groups of 4 make 12 things. 12 divided by 3, right? If I take 12 and I break it into 3 groups, I get 4 into each group. Or if I have 12 and I divide it into 4 groups, then I get 3 in each group. That same idea, okay? All right, well, let's look again at this at this same thing about the total stuff in each group here, okay? In fact, let's see if this works. All right, so I'm going to fix this again. Send this to the back. All right, so now let's talk about total stuff, and let's say we're going to put stuff in each group, okay? So let's say I want to put 2 in each group, right? So that's going to be sort of like 12 divided into groups of 2, or groups of 2, and I want to know how many groups that makes, okay? So I'm going to make not 2 groups, I'm going to make a group of 2, okay? So, whoops, that's what's going to happen here. So I'm going to make a group of 2, all right? Then I'm going to need another group here. So then I'm going to it's going to have to do this every time, really. Okay. Do another group here. Okay. And then we will make another group. Okay. Let's send this to the back again. Okay. Another group here. Good. And then I'm going to keep doing this over and over again, right? So let's see. I can here. And I'm going to need another group and another group, right? And together, I have to send all this stuff backwards. Sorry, I wasn't planning for that whole reordering business. Anyway, so here, drop into here, and then I put 2 over here, and then I make another group of 2, and these 2 can come together, and we can bring them and put them there, okay? And what we notice is, if I make 2 groups of 2 together, that makes 6 groups, okay? And that's what we're doing with division, all right? So, moving on, let's see how does it work with negatives, okay? Well, here this problem says 4 times 2, right? What we're saying is I have 4 groups of 2. You could say I have 4 in a group and I have 2 groups. Either way, I typically like to use, well, either way we can say that, okay? And so what is 4 groups of 2? Okay, well, if I have 4 groups of 2, okay, then I'm going to drop these in here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? So 4 groups of 2. How many things is that altogether? Well, together it makes 8, right? I have 8 total stars. Okay? So that's one way of doing it. Another way of saying, let's say you, let's say for 4 days, right? I could say 4 days. Okay, in a row, right? 4 days, 4 consecutive days. I gain 2 pounds, right? 2 pounds each day. That would be a lot. Maybe we'll say, well, we'll leave it at that, okay? Because it's going to work for this example. So in 4 days, I gain 2 pounds, right? I gain 2 pounds each day. And so how much do I gain total? Well, total would be 8 pounds, right? So this could be day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and together it means I gain 8 pounds. All right, well, what does it mean if I have -4 then? Okay, so -4 times 2. Well, you can look at this 2 ways, and one of the way I typically like to do it is I like to look at this. Anytime there's a positive, if there's positive, negative, I try to think of the 2 as the number of groups, okay? So what it's real, you could say 2 groups, okay? And what I'm putting in each side of each group is each group has losing 4, right? So I'd have each of these is sort of saying I'm going down 4, right? So this would be -4, and this is a -4 together, right? So then I have this is -4 in here, and this is -4 in there, and together, if I lose, let's say, instead of gaining the 4 pounds, I lose 4 pounds in 2 days, right? Lose 4 pounds each day. Together, I would lose 8 pounds, okay? Um, So hopefully that is making sense to you, right? If I have -4 in two groups, -4 and -4 to me together me -8, right? If I go down 4 and I go down 4 again, I've gone down 8. All right, well, what does this mean when I have 4 times -2? Well, again, if there's a positive number in there, I like to think of it as the number of groups. Okay, so here I have 4 groups, and then what's happening in each group, right? I've got a -2. So this would sort of be like over the course of 4 days, I lose 2 pounds each day. Okay, losing 2 pounds each day over 4 days would mean that I would lose 8 pounds. Okay, again, same idea. It would be 4 groups, right? The day 1, lose 2 pounds. Day 2, lose another 2 pounds. Day 3, lose another 2 pounds. Day 4, lose another 2 pounds. Right? Groups of stuff, groups of the same thing happening. So all together, what happens here? -8. I have lost 8 pounds altogether. Okay. So hopefully that works for you. Now, here comes the one that's definitely going to be confusing, okay? And this is confusing even for me as a math teacher. I often find it's not necessarily the most practical of things, but because we can do the other ones, this one has to work too, okay? So I've got -4 times -2. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, all right, I've got 4 groups, okay? But instead of getting this 4 groups, right? Instead of just saying like each day, let's go backwards in time, okay? So again, it's sort of like in those other ones, you're getting the groups. Well, in this time, I'm going to be going back. I'm going to be removing the groups, okay? So if I before had 2 in each of these groups, right? Well, now what I'm doing is, and then I had, let's say I was losing. So this is, we'll say this was day 1, right? This is day 2. This is day 3. This is day 4. Okay. So let's say I lost 2 pounds. I lost 2 pounds. I lost 2 pounds. I lost 2 pounds. Okay. So I would have lost 8. Now this negative says, so go back. Don't get those 4 days. Go back 4 days, right? So instead of I didn't lose these, it's pretending like, okay, I didn't lose these 2 pounds. I didn't lose these 2 pounds. I didn't lose these 2 pounds. I did. So how much weight did I have before I lost it a bunch of times? Well, together, that's going to make 8. Okay. Hopefully, as you see that, those other examples help get here. Okay. We will definitely talk more about this in class. This is just, again, a brief introduction. We'll be working on it together. We'll talk more about how to explain different variations of these problems. So bring your notes to class, and we can talk more about it. All right.